Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Firehouse Table Talk. You know what you're watching. Firehouse Table Talk brought to you by One Brother, One Sister, the nonprofit that brings training and education to first responders, military, firefighters, police officers, rescue workers of all kinds, and brings training for mental health, for trauma, and most importantly, for alcoholism and addiction. That's what we do at One Brother, One Sister. Here, what we like to do is we like to educate you on all the things that go into being a fire and rescue worker, what's going on in the community as far as fire and rescue is concerned, and letting you know. I mean, there's career opportunities available for you. There's all sorts of things out there that you might not know. We would like you to get to know them. And the guy who helps me do this, a friend of mine for a couple of years now, is Chief Keith Breyer from the Palm Beach Garden Fire and Rescue. Chief, how are you?
I'm good, Scott. How are you? It's good to see you.
It's very good to see you too, my friend. We're pretty much halfway through 2023 now. Report card. How you guys doing in 2023? How's everything shaping up with you guys?
Well, we're probably busier than ever. Post-COVID, everything's back to normal, but with that influx of everybody from the Northeast, California, loading up into Florida, it seems like Palm Beach County and kind of seems like they're all settling here in Palm Beach Gardens. We're extremely busy, getting ready to open up another station the end of 2024. We just hired 21 personnel to man that station. So we're busy, but all's good.
That's good. And, I want to mention it now because when we get talking to our guests, I don't want to cut into their time too much. We are into hurricane season again. So we're talking about safety. Should people be, because I think we've fallen into the last 2 years. It's been pretty tame for at least us down here. We've had some near misses. That could be dangerous. People should still be prepared this year, just like assume that you're going to get hit. Is that a good idea?
It is. And we have been lucky here, but, they weren't so lucky last year on the West Coast.
Right.
So, if you look back and you see all the damage that was done and all the things that were done during that storm, it certainly should, make you at the very least prepare yourself and your family, have a plan B. There's no excuse for not being prepared. All that information is out there. You're given plenty of time. It's just, we don't want to play the odds. So get out there. Make sure you have your plan for yourself and your family, securing your home, getting your hurricane supplies now, because I guarantee you, by the time a storm watch comes, you're not going to find the water on the shelves. You're not going to find batteries. Get it now while you can. Just make sure you're prepared.
Absolutely. Very good point. Is there a place that you know of where they can go and find a good list to work from? Because some people might, obviously you don't think about everything, so it'd be nice to have a list.
Yeah. So what I would recommend is wherever you live, whatever city or county you live, go to their website, go onto their emergency management, and they'll have a list of supplies. They'll have contact information, emergency response numbers, all those things, but they all include a list that you should have for hurricane supplies.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And I'm going to remind everybody one more time, and we'll do this on every show for the next couple of months. If there is an evacuation, if the city or your city or your town, your state, if they call for an evacuation, move. Don't sit still. You're not just putting yourself at risk. You're putting the person who's going to try to rescue at risk too. Right, Chief?
Absolutely. And remember, we tell everybody there's a good chance that it might be 72 hours before we can even get to you. So, don't take that chance. Leave, get your family out of here. And who wants to be in a place that was ravaged by a hurricane with no electricity, no air conditioning, and having to suffer through that? Go, evacuate, come back when it's safe. That's the best bet.
Yes, it is the price we pay for living in paradise down here in South Florida, but it is something that is very serious. We will continually remind you about this, but please start filling out your list now, put it in your storage, and hey, if December comes around and nothing happened, use that stuff in the spring and then restock it again in the summer.
Absolutely.
All right, let's bring on our guest. First off, we're talking to Christina Krakowski, who is lieutenant with Palm Beach Gardens. Christina, how are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I am doing fine. Tell us a little bit. How long have you been with Palm Beach?
I'm I will be in my 20th year starting January 4th next year.
So you started when you were 8 years old then, obviously.
Sure. Sure. So almost 20 years I've been with the department. I'm on our honor guard. I'm on our wellness committee. I'm also the FACE team representative for our firefighters aggressively attacking the cancer epidemic. I'm a rescue lieutenant. I love my job and I love the city I work for.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, 20 years ago, you came in probably when there was a little less women coming in than there are now, or was it pretty even back then?
No, I think we've
No.
grown significantly. When I first came to Gardens, I believe there was four. And then we've lost a bunch. We accumulated quite a few. At one point, we had almost 23, and we went down to 6 or 7. Now we're back up again. So it's fantastic to see the younger woman back on the fire service, like coming back.
Excellent. And as you said, it's a very rewarding career, right?
Oh, completely. I love my job.
That's great. And we're going to talk about the wellness part of your job in a moment. But first, let's bring in our other guest who has been waiting patiently. I probably fell asleep in our nice, comfortable green room back there having a cup of tea. Here she is. This is Jessica Gutchick. I didn't use the S. Jessica Gutchick. Did I get it right?
You got it.
Okay. And Jessica, it's going to be easier for you to tell it than me because your list of the roles you fill is quite long. But it's all about wellness and physical wellness and everything else. Tell us what you do for Palm Beach Gardens.
Okay. So I am a physical therapist, and my role at Palm Beach Gardens is the health and wellness coordinator. So I have my doctorate in physical therapy. I am a certified strength and conditioning specialist. I have a few other specific certifications and pieces of education that help give me a framework for what I do for Palm Beach Gardens. But essentially, I try to develop their on-shift fitness programs, and they're all geared towards injury prevention for those that are most specific to the fire service in general, and specifically to the work comp claim injuries that Palm Beach Gardens has suffered over the last few years. And then the firefighters, do my program on shift, and then they also have access to me outside of that if they need guidance or advice on any other fitness or health related issues.
Now, how did you fall into this? I mean, was this your plan to work with first responders from the beginning? Because obviously physical therapists, you know, that wasn't specific to what you're doing now. How did you end up where you are now?
In physical therapy school, before you graduate and become licensed, you have to do clinical rotations. And my last rotation in PT school was at Fort Bragg, the Army base. And I worked with all of the special forces going through the Q course before you can become a Green Beret. And I fell in love with the population. I also fell in love with my husband, who is a firefighter. And with the fire service, you know, you're kind of limited to your one department for life, which is great for many reasons. Does not allow for me to up and move to work in a military base or necessarily join the armed forces myself. So I wanted to create a way I could work with a niche population of tactical athletes, first responders, military personnel. So that brought me to create my own LLC, which is Tactical Athlete Initiative. And that way I can provide my services to a population that I respect above any other, and take my passion of physical therapy and helping teach people how to maintain their physical well-being in their job specific demands.
I totally understand falling in love with the population with One Brother, One Sister, Karen and I working with first responders. They're a unique group of people that are very special and have become very near to my heart. Chief, I got to ask you, you know, we've got Christina talking about wellness, and we've got Jesse coming in, an outside person, if you will, coming in and doing these services. This is a relatively new phenomenon in the life of fire departments to put that much effort into that kind of physicality wellness. Is this something in bringing outside people in? Are you seeing more awareness about all these things about taking care of ourselves and stuff?
Well, there's definitely over the last, I would say, 5 years, typically fire stations years ago were really limited to a couple pieces of exercise equipment in the apparatus bay floor, right? It was there if you wanted to use it. But, here's what we know. This job is rough on your body, and it's a physical job. So being able to reach out to subject matter experts like Jesse and having them come in and engage your people, it does a couple things. First of all, it lends a lot of legitimacy to what we do, right? We have a subject matter expert that's doing it. She understands us and she understands our population. Christina will talk a little bit about firefighter functional fitness, but what we want to do is make sure that they're prepared to do their job physically and that we could decrease their injuries and our workers' comp claims specifically. So reaching out and getting those third-party subject matter experts to come in and do it really adds a lot to the program. And Jessica is actually, like she had mentioned, is now coordinator of our health and wellness program. So yes, but I would say you would see over the last 5 years, there's been a swing towards bringing in subject matter experts.
That's excellent. I think that's excellent. Why not draw on your community to get all of those things? Because I can only assume now one of you guys has to define, because I've heard this now a couple times, the functional. What do we say? Functional fitness.
Yes.
Yeah. Somebody define that for me.
Go ahead, Christina.
Well, what I would just describe it as or explain it as is just what we do in the fire service with our lifting, our techniques, and all the things that we do. It applies to us in our movements. So it's things that we have to do and being strong in doing them so we don't injure ourselves. That's how I would define it. Jessica might have a better definition.
I think that's great. And I mean, anything can be functional fitness in the right context. So for me, the functional fitness comes from why are you doing it? And that also has a big role. Like I treat my patients in functional fitness all day long, regardless of what their occupation is. But it's putting the physical activity that you're doing in the right context and to reach a certain goal. So for me, functional fitness is not doing a supported leg press where you are supported and every single end and only your knee is bending and straightening and there's a certain amount of weight on it and it's very controlled. To me, functional fitness is squatting down, picking up a roll of hose and then standing back up with it. That puts the same muscles under a very different demand and it becomes functional. We're not doing any of this to make your bicep bigger, to make it look better in a cutoff shirt. And you're not doing these core exercises for the six pack at the beach. That's not the goal. It doesn't make it wrong. It's just not functional. So for us, the function puts the reason behind the movement to, one, make you better at your job so that you can do it better with a lower injury risk. And then it also brings in the tactical athlete side of things where the stakes are higher than just winning a game. Lives can be on the line at any moment. It's also going to prepare you for life after retirement. You might retire as a firefighter at 50 years old, but you've got an entire life left to live and you want to be able to do that with your physical body still intact.
That is, you two just nailed it for me. Thank you so much. That makes a lot of sense. I think people can, it's great to go to the gym and want to get the big pecs and the big muscles and to do all of that. But the function is exercising in a way that lends itself to the functions that you do during the day and the things that you do. You're right. And nobody's going to have your back and your support, and you're not going to have your butt in a chair when you're trying to lift these weights with your legs. You're going to be hefting, God forbid, a body or a piece of equipment or a hose. And I can only imagine without this training, the injuries have to be much higher than with this training. I guess that's the thing that comes first to mind. The amount of injuries people must have without proper training. Could somebody speak to that?
Not only that, I think that, that's part of your job when you become part, like in the fire service, that goes hand in hand. You're now no longer taking on a desk stationary position. You are active all the time at any time. So to always be and work on your conditioning, even as we age, to continue, never stop, continue to grow and be better, work on your flexibility. Little things are big for us to prevent injuries. So I think there's been a huge change ever since Chief has implemented our fitness in Palm Beach
Chief,
Gardens.
are you seeing reductions in injuries and stuff with these kind of programs?
We have. Not only have we seen a decrease in the amount of injuries, but the severity of those injuries. Mm-hmm. So we have not had a disability pension in the last 5-6 years, which is huge. Prior to that, we had a lot of people that went out mostly on back injuries. Mm-hmm. So we've been able to really, so far, been able to keep ahead of all that, based on all the stuff that Jessica has implemented as far as physical conditioning, but core strength, and as Christina said, flexibility and mobility. So doing all those things we have seen not only a decrease in the amount of incidents, but the severity of those incidents as well.
Jesse, how do the firefighters and the rescue workers, how do they respond to you and to working out and doing these things? I imagine the group of people who probably worked in a firehouse 30 years ago would have thought you were crazy. Is it different now? Are people really into it?
Depends on who you ask. It depends. It depends on how their last shift went. Oh. So it's very variable, and it's not all sunshine and rainbows. It's like any required, it's like telling someone to go to the dentist because you don't want their teeth to fall out. Like, do I want to compare myself to a dentist? No. But does everybody love mandated and prescribed interventions, even if they benefit them? No. And so I would say overall, yes, everybody wants to feel better. Everybody wants to be better. But depending on the shift and depending on the season of the year, the season of the individual's life, sometimes it's embraced with more enthusiasm than others. I would say in general, though, everybody wants to be better. And it's just a matter of, is my way their way of being better? And so sometimes, yes, it is. And they absolutely love it. And they go into it at 100% motivation and effort, and they, make the time. Other times they run 20 calls in 24 hours and haven't slept in 48 hours, and doing some stretches or doing some mobility work is the last thing anybody wants to do. And I can respect that. So it's definitely about being flexible in your personality, in your schedule, to make this program work as a whole. And it's not something that can be a rigid, you have to spend exactly this amount of time every single day to make it work, because that's just not the lifestyle.
Right. Chief, where do you operate things like this? How do you set it up so it's available to people?
So what we do is, actually, Jessie just came down on Sunday and she films videos with our members of our health and wellness team. So all the workouts are videoed. They're all put on our website, and they go on there and they choose the workout that they want to do for the day. And they do it hopefully with their crew. It's not always possible to do it with their crew because they're out running around, and sometimes the engine and the rescue might be separated. But the training is mandated each shift. And they go in there, they pick their workouts. Hopefully they get with their crew, and then they document that training.
Wow. So, I mean, there's really no excuse not to do this. I got to ask, though, Jesse, you say some people might be a little resistant. I get it. I get tired sometimes. I don't want to do certain things, even though I know I need to do them. And it's life. It's people. But do you have people sometimes come back and say, oh, thank God that I've been working out, because I really could have gotten hurt there, or this could have gone really south? Have you had people come back with like realizations like that?
I have. And I mean, there is time in the day, most days, to do something. Now, I'm married into this life. I have, a pretty solid understanding of, there's plenty of days where you don't even eat because you never made it back to the station because you went from one call to the next call. Is that going to be every day though? No. And so a lot of times, and I tell my patients in the clinic this, my, 85-year-old patients where they're trying to get off the toilet without their spouse having to help them, or if you're a 22-year-old firefighter trying to raise a 28-foot ladder by yourself, right? It doesn't matter the context. You're not always going to be motivated in anything in life. And so discipline comes down to it more than motivation most of the time. And when you can make that, and first responders are some of the most disciplined individuals I have met. So this is not meant to say that they don't have discipline, because they do. They are some of the most disciplined individuals I have met. And so when you put fitness and wellness at the priority of those discipline levels and behaviors, the outcomes are going to be life-changing. And I've had many, I can't even call them patients because they're friends, they're family members, they're coworkers that I have helped in the fire service, and they've gotten back to work faster. They, got stuck after a back injury they had months ago, and they have been skirting around doing all these things at work. And now they're finally able to get back to doing those tasks that they were relying on their crew to do, or the apprehension of not being able to be there when their crew needs them at their most pivotal moments. That fear is now gone because they have the physical confidence to be able to do whatever they need to do on the fire ground.
Gotcha. And I love that you pointed out they are the most disciplined people. The chief and I have talked about this before, about all that discipline it's there for a reason. It's not just, you're not just keeping people in line. I mean, when the bell rings, discipline is what gets the job done and saves lives. Christine, I wanted to ask you, what got you involved in the fitness end of all of this?
I think just as an aging woman in the fire service, period, that's to be honest. You're not the same you were when you were 24, 20 years later, if not more. It definitely takes a toll, and keeping up with the younger guys and the younger girls that are coming on shifts. You want to be able to keep up or maintain, or just try and be the best that you can be, right?
Right,
I don't want to
absolutely.
let that fitness aspect go at all.
Absolutely. So how is your involvement? What do you get to do?
What do I get to do? On our wellness committee?
Yeah.
Well, I helped with the videos, all the different events that we have, like the workouts I always participate in. Even if I bring it back to my station. So I have, as well as the fitness that we do, and we have our library online, which is phenomenal. Our Palm Beach Gardens Wellness online. So we have access to all the workouts, either circuits or stretching. And I make my crew, or at least my guys on the rescue, whoever's with me, do it every shift. So
Excellent.
It's something, it's part of life. It's part of our life, not only on shift, but off shifts. You have to continue it. So
I hate to bring this up because I don't want to sound like an old man, although I am one. But back in my day, people interacted. They played basketball together with their off time. They did physical activities and stuff. It's real easy now to settle in and watch one of the 3,000 channels on cable or satellite, or play with your phone or video games or computers, and really just not loosen up, not stretch, not move. There's a lot of lack of movement. Is that something that you also are battling there too as well? Or am I off base here?
with the mobility and all that kind of stuff and the flexibility,
Yeah,
absolutely not. I feel like that's my whole key for not preventing injury, because I've had it happen before earlier in my career where I hurt my knee. I'm petrified of hurting myself or my back. So I'm really careful on my form, and I do a lot more. I even have an app on my phone, Pliability. So I try to do that on my off days, or if I have time at night before we go to bed and they're watching TV, I'm in my room stretching, because I'm older. I don't want to get hurt. I want to retire and be healthy. And I love that I'm more capable of doing certain movements than they are, and they're younger than I am. But it's all stretching and flexibility. So I don't know.
it's cool. The awareness of this is a part of what people should be doing on a daily basis across the board. I mean,
I think
forget all the weight.
way.
What's that?
I think it's becoming that way. It's starting to become a thing to be, that's part of our job is fit firefighters, fit for duty, fit for life, fit for retirement. I don't want to be injured. I don't want to go out that way. I don't think anyone wants to. And I want to live my best life. I think that's the whole key is fitness.
You just said a word, retirement. And Jesse, I'm going to bring this to you. When people are getting close to retirement, it's really easy, kind of like all the aches and pains kind of add up. You age very quickly after you retire from a lot of places, whether it's military, first responder, any job that you've been really all in, you take it away. It feels like you age quickly. Do you deal with people preparing for a retirement, or have you talked to people about continuing with fitness after the service?
So I usually start it when I'm giving my introductory, this is why injury prevention in the fire service matters, is I talk about life after the fire, and that you are not just in this to get to the next day, to get to your pension, to get to retirement. Like once you retire, like for a lot of people in these professions, like that's when your new life begins. Because a lot of times you get to retire at a much younger age than someone who had a desk job and is going to retire at 65, potentially. Whether that's the case or not, when you are used to functioning at a certain level, regardless of what that level was, and it stops and it changes, your body goes through a huge adjustment. So as a first responder, not only do you have different physical changes and different physical variables, like working 24 hours at a time and then not working for 48 hours at a time, your sleep, your diet, everything is going to change dramatically when you retire. And so whether you had great habits before or after, that's still something that you need to maintain. And my father-in-law is a great example. He's been a firefighter for, going on 30 years and in the fire service for that long. And he is one who has lots of aches and pains from, 20 plus years on the job. And when he talks about retirement, we talk about what does that look like physically, actively speaking. So just because you're not doing something on a daily basis doesn't mean that you don't need to continue to promote activity so that everything doesn't come to a grinding halt, which it very well will if you went from busting your butt for 20 years and then you go sit on the couch for 2 weeks. You're going to feel like you aged overnight.
Chief, it's got to feel good because I know you're about 30 years from retirement, so it's right around the corner. I don't see it ever happening, brother.
Well, I do, but
it's got to feel good to have people coming out of the service of with Palm Beach Gardens, coming out healthier instead of beat up. That's got to be a goal of yours as well, too, right?
Absolutely. So, our thing is 30 years in, 30 years out. So we want our personnel to be able to, after their 30 years of public service, to go on, enjoy their retirement and do those things that they wanted to do, right? We want them to be healthy enough to go enjoy hiking, surfing, fishing, all those things that they want to do. But in order to do that, we need to keep them healthy that 30 years. So we're seeing that trend. I see a lot of our retirees at events, and I have to tell you that they all look great physically, mentally, and emotionally. They all seem like they're doing really well. So that's really part of this whole thing, is not just why you're here, but we want to make sure that when you move on in your career, like Jesse said, that, you're able to move on with your life in that next chapter, but to be able to do it and enjoy the things that you want to do.
Excellent. Guys, is there a part of the functional fitness that includes things like diet and, again, getting enough sleep and all those kind of things? Do you guys bring all that in as well?
Of course. It's all on our website as well, the pbgfrwellness.com, which is open to the public, which is phenomenal. We have everything from diet, Mediterranean diet, recipes, as well as there was a sleep study Chief brought in for University of Miami, because those are all contributing factors on fitness.
Absolutely. Jesse, do you make that part of what you do as well, is fill them in on all the pieces and not just the physical?
So I am not certified or educated beyond, a couple of classes in physical therapy when it comes to nutrition. So They do have a nutritionist who works with Palm Beach Gardens. So it's, my role as the physical side, she handles for the nutrition. And so they have a nutritionist that works specifically with them and for them. So that's on the website, like Christina mentioned as well. And recently, one great thing about this program and what the Health and Wellness Committee has been doing is, while I've only been working here for about 18 months, it's been constantly evolving and changing. So what we did the first time I came down and filmed videos and wrote a program doesn't look like it did, 6 months later, and it doesn't look the same as what I just did last weekend when I came down. And so part of this new adaptation that we're evolving into is I'm going to now be including some mindfulness training when it comes to more psychological management. So again, I'm not psychology trained outside of the classes I've taken in college, but there is a huge mental health component to the fire service. There is a huge mental health component to physical fitness. And so we're going to start including more mental health components in what I provide as well, to help bridge the gap and go beyond just the physical, because emotional and mental well-being probably plays just as big of a role in the fire and first responder service as a whole as the physical.
That's fantastic. I can only imagine it raises your confidence and in your mental well-being when you feel physically well, when you feel physically fit, and you feel up to the task, because that's a huge weight. Christine, I got to ask you, 20 years, working with Palm Beach Gardens, we talked about kind of the shift and seeing more women and then, dropping off. But what has been the shift in the thinking just among people there about taking better care of themselves? I see less cigarette smoking and less things going on that happened than 20 years ago. Everybody was still smoking, and now they're not. So are you seeing a more of a shift in the paradigm into healthy lifestyles?
Oh, without a doubt. Again, we have younger people finally. There was not stagnant, but we didn't hire for quite a while. So it was kind of status quo, kind of, right? Now that we're evolving again and we're hiring younger people who are physically fit, it's kind of given us a push to be better, to do better. We're learning. We're learning from each other, really.
That's fantastic. Chief, it's got to be tough sometimes to shuffle between old school and new school, because you still got people who've been there for a long time. Then you got these new kids coming in with newfangled ideas, and then you're trying to bridge the gap. Has that been difficult sometimes, is to kind of like make it all flow for everybody?
It has, but more importantly is not so much having your senior firefighters that have been here for years and the younger ones. It's about changing the culture. So if you change the culture of something, not only do the new ones coming in understand it, but the ones that have been here for 20, 30 years have seen a shift in that culture as well. And we've talked about this, right? Not everybody makes that transition, right? We have a lot of dinosaurs that have retired. And unfortunately, dinosaurs lay eggs, right? So it's up to us to make sure that those people coming on get that kind of pressure to get that cultural change. And we've seen that. I've seen people that I thought would never, that it would be like pulling teeth to engage, to people that have lost, 30, 40 pounds are feeling great. And this was all the impetus was this first thing that we started doing to kind of get them moving and get them active. So like Jesse said, not everybody, thinks this is the greatest thing, but it's our responsibility as administrators. It's our responsibility as officers like Christina to make sure that when the bell rings, we're physically prepared to do the job. And what Jesse does prepares them to do that.
Yeah, and I appreciate the picture you put in my head of a firefighter laying an egg. I appreciate it. That's going to be stuck in my head now. I just want to wrap up with two more things. And, I've obviously anything else you guys want to add, but, dealing with the people that I deal with and the things that I know, a lot of addiction issues, substance abuse or substance or addiction or alcohol use disorders begin with an injury. A lot of them do. They begin with an injury, take some pills. Like Chief said at the very beginning, it seems like almost first responders and bad backs were one and one. You couldn't avoid having a bad back and ending up on painkillers for a back problem. Is this something that you are aware of and that motivates you as well? Is that if we can reduce the injuries, we could reduce some of those other peripheral problems that come from that? Christina, you want to go with that?
I thought you were going to Chief. I'm sorry.
No.
I believe so. I mean, you feel better. You're less likely to drink or have an addiction problem if you feel good inside, right? And being healthy. That's how I feel. And our core is just as strong. What do they say? Your core is as strong as your back, so make it strong to prevent any injuries. Again, it's just getting people moving. I know walking isn't a thing, but doing the stairs, carrying things, picking up things, moving things. Again, the functional fitness stuff.
Wow.
I wish all that would go away. Unfortunately, I think it's not as prevalent in our department. The alcohol and the drug addiction. I do not see that as being a big thing in our department. I'm grateful. We have a lot of healthy, thriving people in our department. So again, I think it goes back to fitness and emotional and.
Well, that's part of the shift in paradigm that I was talking about before. Whereas years ago, no matter where you were doing a first responder job, the end of the day was, everybody get together and drink to kind of numb themselves so they can go home and get sleep. That's pretty much what they did. And now there's all these other alternatives, and fitness being a huge one, because fitness not only builds the body, it builds brain chemistry. It builds brain chemistry and everything else. So is this something that, Jesse, that you think about as well? Is, those injuries are just the beginning of their problems because of other things that could happen. Do you keep that in your mind too?
I do. And I feel like I could talk for hours on this topic. So I'll try to keep it as concise as I can. Back pain is part of 80% of the population. Let me rephrase this. 80% of the population will experience at least one episode of back pain in their life. 80%. Wow. So an episode of back pain can be, I woke up and my back is sore, and by the next day I'm fine. Back pain can be, I lifted something really heavy and I have a true muscle, tendon, bone injury, and it takes me 2 to 4 weeks to recover. Back injury, an episode of back pain could also result in 6 surgeries, spinal stimulators, and an opioid addiction. And it could be anywhere in between. And I can't tell you how many people I see on a daily basis from what they're describing and telling me that if they had sought help immediately and gotten help immediately, we could have reduced this episode of pain from months to maybe days or weeks. Now, can physical therapy and the non-invasive treatments fix everything? No. Surgeries are necessary in certain instances. Serious accidents happen, but not 80% need all of these additional things that are causing the opioid epidemics, the alcohol dependency, and any other substance abuse. And one thing I like to talk about a lot is knowing the difference between being hurt and just hurting. Having aches and pains is normal, but if you are injured, if you feel like you have hurt yourself, the culture previously was suck it up and deal with it when you get home. Don't tell anybody. You can't show weakness. You can't complain about anything at work. We don't want a workman's comp claim, or, knee pain's part of the job. Just get over it. And that's the kind of mentality and culture that perpetuates, a sprain that could have healed in 2 weeks with some appropriate interventions to 10 years of back pain. And so when you don't feel like you have the supportive culture where you can get that quick intervention to turn your short disability around to short term, that's when the chronic injuries happen. And chronic pain leads to an endless amount of mental health sequelae and domino effect, which leads to all of the other substance abuse issues. And it doesn't even have to progress to the category of substance abuse. Going home and having 2 glasses of wine every night does not necessarily make an alcoholic. But where is that line? And the physical carryover to mental health, physical and mental health are so intertwined.
Yeah.
Science has proven time and time again that physical activity improves mental well-being. And all of those are so interconnected. You just have to have a supportive culture of when you are hurt, you need treatment. When you are suffering physically or mentally, you need assistance. And the level of that assistance is up to multiple different possibilities, but they all go hand in hand.
And taking care of your physicality and having that information and doing, the workouts or the exercises or whatever you might do does create enough body awareness too to sometimes separate hurting and hurt. But there's a lot of people out there don't even have any body awareness because they don't even use their body properly or do things that they could do and stretch out. We're
Right.
running low on time. Go ahead.
I say there's a big difference between being sore and being hurt.
Yeah,
You ask any
exactly.
athlete when they've had a good workout, oh, I could barely move the next day. And that's a good thing. Like they're proud that they could barely move the next day because they worked so hard, they were so sore. But if you don't know the healthy kind of soreness, then it's hard to differentiate the pathological type of pain.
Before we wrap this up, Chief, I got to come back with you with an obvious one, and I probably don't even have to ask it, but I will anyway. Physical fitness and functional fitness. We talked about nutrition. We know that there's a lot more mental health services available as well now. How did they function before without all of these things? Because I can't imagine people not having this stuff. You know what I mean?
I do, and not well. There's people that I came on the job with early on the job that have, I know 5 people that I came on the job with that went out on disability pensions. Again, back then, our whole fitness was, if you remember, Scott, you'll remember this, the old universal weight machines that you saw in high school. It was tucked in the back of the bay. It was rusted. It had dust on it, and you could use it if you wanted to. And if you didn't want to, well, you didn't have to. But, it's devastating to see. It's devastating for me as a fire chief to have to say to somebody, listen, I'm sorry, but they'll come in and go, I can no longer function as a firefighter, a career that I loved. I love serving the community. I love being out there. And now I have this injury. And not only am I not going to be able to do the job that I love, but, I'm in a lot of pain. So like Jesse said, there's a lot of physical, mental, and emotional things that go along with that. So, it's too bad that it took us so long to recognize it. But I think the important thing is that now in the fire service, this is outside of firefighter cancer, this is one of the top things that we're looking at in order to make sure that our people are healthy.
Wow. So the last question has no meaning now after you said that. Has performance improved with the addition of these services?
Yeah, I would say, I think probably Christina is out on the streets, right? So I'm not out there and I don't really see it, but I think Christina would be able to see, because she's been with us for so long, she would be able to better answer that, to see just being on a truck and how people are functioning and what they're doing.
What do you say, Christina?
I definitely think so. There's a huge improvement. And doing the functional fitness, again, there's less injury. There's people working out together. It's forming better relations. Not only that, instead of getting the drinks after, I was saying, we do pickleball. We have like tournaments against each other, against the different shifts. Like there's fun things to do besides going to a bar or drinking. It's no longer that anymore.
Yeah. I keep hearing about this pickleball and everybody's playing it except me, apparently. I'm the only one who's not played it yet.
No, I do, but I'm not great. No.
I'll tell you what, let's go once around. We're going to start with Jesse and, any final thoughts to wrap this up?
Fire service is hard work. You put your body through a lot. You put your mind through a lot. So be kind to not only yourself, but be kind to those around you. You have signed up to work in a profession where not only your life is at risk every time you go to work, but someone else's life. And you have a professional obligation to reach a certain fitness level. Now, I don't think anybody is just in it for the job. You have a personal life. And so you need to go beyond that professional responsibility of being able to maintain a certain physical level to not only do your job, but then you need to be able to go home and do whatever it is you want to do when you're not a firefighter. And if that is fishing, if that's a construction job, if that's picking up your grandkids, it doesn't matter what it is, but you have something in your life that requires physical ability to a certain extent. And so you want to be able to do that for the rest of your life, no matter how long it is. And these physical activities that we're doing, they have so many secondary benefits, including relationship building, mental health, teamwork. The science is there to support all of it. And so make yourself a priority and put the discipline there to take care of yourself. This is the only body and the only life you're ever going to have. And it doesn't need to be a painful one.
Excellent. Excellent. Christina, final thoughts?
I don't know. That was wonderful. Thank you.
I know it's hard to follow that. I get it.
I can't even touch that. I'm just grateful thank you for having us on the show. But also I think, I like to keep myself involved in the wellness, not only, again, like I said, for a female in the fire service getting older, but also because it's a part of my lifestyle and a part of my life. I want to retire, and unfortunately, you see different types of people and different calls that you run on. And that every day is an eye opener. What kind of life and quality of life do you want after you retire? To keep moving, just keep moving. Don't stop, because once you're stationary, it's really hard to keep moving. All good things come with being physically fit and wellness and taking care of yourself. Your quality of life is better. You're happier. You feel better. You attract certain people, and I don't want the injuries. I want to live a great life and work my whole career and not have another injury. So again, I'm just grateful that our chief is so big into the fitness and the wellness committee. It gives us the opportunity to be better and to show our younger people coming on, not to give up at a certain age. We're not stationary sitting in a recliner like everyone says. We are moving. So.
And Christina, I thank you for your 20 years of service and for your dedication. Chief is constantly talking about being blessed by working with great people. And every time I meet one of them, it's like, he's right every time. And I hate that he's right all the time, but he is. He really is. You're great people. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Scott.
Chief, what do you think, man?
Well, Scott, we're fortunate, right? We're a very well-funded fire department. We have the support of a city manager and a city council. So not everybody can afford to do what we do. But Christina mentioned our website, pbgfrwellness.com. That is free. Any firefighter, anybody could go on there. All of Jesse's videos are on there. They're well explained. Somebody could see this today and implement our program in their own department pretty much free of charge to be able to get that information. So we welcome people to that. We want people to go and utilize that website. It's something that we could do to pay it forward. So it's out there. Hopefully people will use it.
Chief, thank you once again for your dedication and service to our communities, and for wanting to be the leader. I know when we first met, one of the first things out of your mouth was, I want to be the leader. I want to be the one who does this first, and that people look at us and know we're doing the right thing. And you keep doing that. You keep topping yourself. I can't wait to see where we are next year with everything that you're doing. But thank you again for your service, my friend.
Thank you.
And for that, you've been watching Firehouse Table Talk with Scott Jones, One Brother, One Sister. Brings you this show through our work with first responders and helping them with trauma and addiction and mental health issues. And of course, with the great friends that we meet, like Chief Breyer and all the good people over at Palm Beach Gardens Fire and Rescue. If you'd like to know more about what we do, go to onebrother1sister.com, or you can definitely reach out to the Palm Beach Garden Fire and Rescue. They'd love to hear from people. If you have questions, call them up, ask them questions, and they'd love to hear it. But for now, I want everybody out there, remember, common sense saves lives. So be safe, take care of your neighbor, take care of yourselves, and everyone out there have a great day. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.